So, uh, I know it seems like I'm just gonna make a bunch of videos again, but I'm not. I'm just gonna sort of try to rationalize why I can't do what you think I'm gonna do, which is, I don't know, blend into your humanity. There's two other things I didn't admit I did wrong in my life. One of them was selling my big brother's uh, dusty old video games, which he wasn't using anymore, in storage in my house to pawn, and my little brother's Pokemon cards, a couple of them that were higher value. Both at times I was very desperate. The little brother Pokemon cards, I was homeless, and things just kept not working. Big Brother's video games, which is now Big Sister, um, happened during a Christmas once. Both of the times I took those things for pawning, um, I wasn't really thinking it was a bad thing. I just knew these things weren't of legitimate use. Um, so I thought I could try to salvage them, just like brass in an old building's wires. I was desperate at the time, so I justified it, even though there's a ton of justifications as to why eventually that could have not been true. But, I grew up in a family that justified me taking their good tools and pawning them. And when they found out I wasn't doing that, they didn't believe me. I took a girl that I met off Instant Chat on AIM, who I lost my virginity to Baltimore. I needed to get her drug dealer best friend, who she refused to have sex with, who tried to kill me later, because she came all the way to Maryland to have sex with me. She's actually not a bad girl. She's just a white girl mixed up with a bad black boy. Anyways, it sounded racist, but it's not. But, they thought I was a heroin addict. My aunt, who's a paranoid social worker for America, whose husband is a social worker who houses mentally ill people, yet has justified keeping me on the streets for 10 years, aka not doing anything about me being on the streets, even though I painted his house once. He paid me for it, but, I also took him to the airport for his honeymoon. So you'd think he'd care about my life, but he doesn't, because, fortunately, he's American. They come up with all sorts of irrational reasons to do shitty things, because they have a subconscious inferiority complex, which is so farly gapped from their superiority consciousness complex. It justifies why and how, here and now, we should basically enslave the majority through the justification of a 1%. Um, these are all variables onto which we've got it better than we once had it, so shut up and don't complain. Even though clearly we have to socially validate why we shouldn't go black, we should go green. Environmentally, that's not an undercover method of racism. That's, unclean air you think of as being black, and clean air and clean skies, healing, healthy green plants, which rationalize ultimately solar power more than anything. Nuclear power seems so go green and so powerful, but it's not anymore. Eventually, neither will wind energy be. And even the turbines creating power in the cracks of the bottom of the UK's island will not be anywhere near what just making a cheap solar panel in China, selling it on eBay, putting it on your roof will be capable of in the future. I mean, we're literally looking in a world where I can start a real estate business with 40 by 40 competent looking shacks, but shacks in comparison to a modern home. Insulation, siding, dignity, decency, but a solar panel roof, which, I could make a Spanish or Chinese roof tile for under $10 a tile and roof an entire 40 by 40 shelter for like 5 grand with cheap modern solar technology and a manufacturer from China. And a person with a self-driving Elon Musk car 5 years from now, worth about $30,000, can basically fill up their car every night and never pay an electricity bill. And because it's self-driving, never pay an insurance high price bill other than like maybe $30 for the very few people that are still experiencing low level AI systems, which within the next decade will be no insurance bill because in order to sell your AI system, you're going to have to verify you'll never crash. That's where we're going. And just like trying to explain to a 18-wheeler tow truck driver why ending elevator operators is not taking jobs, it's rational. I mean, for God's sakes, being an 18-wheeler driver takes you away from being capable of being a strong family supporter emotionally, even though it might support a good paycheck. But it's a job that should and could and very much will be replaced like an elevator operator. I mean, I could start well, I'm not going to make that joke. Anyways, but, if elevator operators started a union to say, go fuck yourself, we're not letting you press buttons on an elevator, we're keeping our jobs, you would look at them like retarded people, which is exactly what a millennial Hispanic man who has started the greatest take your job revolution because we don't need it anymore. Fought in Robot Wars as a youngster, is basically doing very rightfully so because it's efficient, it's effective, and it makes sense. If you need to deal with that, you should think like Elon Musk or the Chain Gang dealing with Trump's crisis in averting the corona variables. But AI society justifies how and why base necessities can be advocated for in a world into which everything's Wally Worlden on a big spaceship with a bunch of really good plants on Earth. But again, my big brother threw away all my memorabilia once. My father let my memorabilia go to waste. My hard drives nearly be corrupted on the outside of his house where they could be stolen, and justified why he loved me. And, these are retarded Americans. My mother justifies why she loves me, even though on Mother's Day, after so many Mother's Days, where I worked hard as an 8-year-old and bought her, and when I was eight, $34 was a lot of money. 12 long stemmed roses for her Mother's Day. That I was a bigger piece of shit because I made her feel fat one time for trying to come play with me in the McDonald's tubes because I thought her girth might leave her stuck at my irrational young age. And she said this to me at the McDonald's I said this to her at, which was near my father's work down at the USDA in Beltsville, uh, for Mother's Day. I was like, well, Adam's not like that. He makes me feel beautiful. She's a dumb, deluded bitch. Flat out. She wants me dead because I posted swimsuit models on my wall from a Sports Illustrated and didn't take them down because she didn't feel confident anymore because she couldn't rationally validate why women have two sacrifices: eating a shitload less than the high metabolism of a male and giving birth. By the way, the part of the reason we have a fast metabolism is because we're working for it, because males are dominant, because most of all variables unto which man has been enslaved and paid for is due to the fact it can utilize its muscles to move around large shit. Sorry, women. Sorry, your principal value was emotional support in birthing children, and mine was being a fucking slave. That is, unless you're a black woman, in which case you were principally put in charge of babies, housemaking, water fetching, and watching your drunk ass husband beat your ass, as verified by Africa. Anyways, aside from that, you know, my parents, my family have always created absurd assumptions and paranoias. Uh, Paranoias and fears principally come from, in a delusional state, people's inferiority complex to devalidate why and how they shouldn't be self-conscious of their inferiority. Thus, they have to create a threat of those who are confidently, superiorly making them feel jealous. Little jelly bellies. And these delusions have eluded a reality of unto which is very simple. But again, like I told you, America has vindicated and validated why it has a sickness and an interest to torture me and leave me stuck in a short-term experiment which I've now levied optimistically to this 10-year-long experiment, which is over and went nowhere, except for me to snitch like a bitch on how sick and pathological America is, and has thus then therefore now made me. I have plenty of good examples. Plenty. And every time they try to out-reason me, not only do I humiliate them and give them a delusional motive as to why I'm the bad guy for being poor, for being screwed, for being hated, for being unfairly treated, and for being abused, and for being targeted from everything from a trick to a death or something even worse. And I'll let your creativity explain past that. But right now, I have to get a passport to get the fuck out of America because they're all a bunch of Tom McDonalds to me now. They're all so sweetly, delusionally undercover that Tom McDonald wants to kill them, or they're so Tom McDonald, it's fucking obvious I can't be your fucking neighbor. Hey, I'm just like you, Tom McDonald. I don't care if my neighbor's an immigrant. Unless they have a pathological subconscious interest to use hammers and axes to sadistically vindicate a purge like subconscious seduction and sexiness to their variable inferiority complex that they have to reproduce a delusional disconnect to what is really going down. Do you get it? I'm moving. I'm getting a passport. And when I do, I'm going to rape and kill, not literally, but destroy any and everyone who has taken it too far to hurt my encompassment of living a decent life. Unfortunately, due to certain variables, whether innocent or unintended, you now can all be found guilty as Hannibal. Like a Chinaman eating an illegal animal, creating the coronavirus you're all fucking about to die from. Well, that is if you're a baby boomer. Baby boomer jokes are popular right now. Let's do it. By the way, your two top candidates are baby boomers. Your president is a baby boomer who nearly got coronavirus from a guy saying, "Make Brazil great again." A guy who lives in America, South America. Isn't that funny? Nobody gets anything. I can't live in North America. I have to take my best next shot. This is probably going to be perceived by a retarded North American as, well, the grass is greener on the other side. No. I'm trying to get over a fence unto which it seems as though I'm being killed for being over. So I'm hoping leaving this boundary leaves me less attached to, stalked, and murderable. I've made that very clear, made that very rational. And if you try to play delusional games with your fucking politicians, your celebrities, and your broadcasters of bullshit, I will tell everyone where I'm going, what you did in the Middle East for 3 years before 9/11. And then at that point, every intelligence agency, nearly almost, on the planet will have to be forced into an Antarctic genocide for what it's doing. Because none of your people grasp how sick fucking James Bonds are. None of them. Ever since I've gotten information from the dark web, I've not very much been a James Bond fan, except for GoldenEye, the greatest N64 game of all time. And that was an old game when I was in high school.